Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Yo, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey player Shane Harper. Shane is currently signed with the Adirondack Thunder in the ECHL and the East Coast Hockey League. This will be Shane's 12th full professional season of pro hockey. Shane has played in the National Hockey League with the Florida Panthers, the American Hockey League, the ECHL, and spent time overseas in Sweden, in the top league of Sweden, the Swedish Hockey League, throughout his pro career. He spent his junior hockey days in the Western Hockey League with the Everett Silvertips. So this is going to be a really fun episode, Shane. So welcome to the show, Shane Harper.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So how have you been? Like, I know we've been trying to plan this thing for a while now, but you've had an injury and we just haven't had both of us have had the time at times, but it's good to get you on. But like, how are you?
Doing good. Yeah. Like you said, we've been talking about this for a while, but yeah, no, doing good now. Just at home with the family, have a little bit more time now, with the holidays, and just, doing our thing at home. And we actually have a little break right now with games. So, yeah, this worked out great.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to get you on. But how's this season gone for you? Like, I know you've been out with injury for 5 weeks so far, but like, how's everything going with the team? And like, you were still able to skate during that time that you were injured. So how's everything going with that?
Yeah. I played here in Adirondack, like my first parts of my first 3 pro years. So, what was it, 8 or 9, 10, 11 years ago. And I ended up meeting my now wife here, and we had a baby a year and a half ago. So, I played over in Europe for 4 years, and I wanted to just come home. So that was pretty much why I came back to play here. It was, I'm getting towards the end of my career, and now that we have literally a team. Like when I skate in the summer, it's the rink that's literally 10 minutes away from our house. It's the rink I skate in. So it was kind of a no-brainer. Just come home, and have some fun, play with a couple of buddies. So yeah, so that's why I'm having a blast being here. I know I've only played one game so far this season before we went on a little Christmas/COVID break. So I haven't had as much fun as I hope I'm gonna have the second half of the season. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, first of all, congrats on the kid, and it's probably really fun to be there and just be home from being overseas for a while and being able to spend time with your family.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Even playing in the U.S. You never. I mean, pretty much in any pro sport, you never get to play at home. So obviously it's not my original home in California, but now this is where we call home. This is where we spend the summers. We go back and forth to California as well, but right now this is where we are. So it's definitely pretty cool to never have to leave your bed and but still get to play pro hockey. It's something that I know I didn't really ever expect to do. So it's just kind of it's a nice change of pace for sure.
Yeah, you're living the good life right now.
Yeah, I can't complain.
Yeah, exactly. But how was that one game that you did play in before Christmas break and all that? Like how did the game go and how do you feel?
I actually felt pretty good. Um, Obviously you always like hold yourself to a higher standard. So
Yeah.
I was a little, I don't know, maybe disappointed just because I think I was thinking a little bit too much. Like you said, I came back from an injury, and it's always hard to play a contact sport when you're thinking about not getting injured.
Yeah.
That doesn't really work, right? You have to kind of go in, especially the way I play. I try to play with a lot of speed, and um, you can't really be worried about getting hit uh, to play my best game. So to be honest, it was just kind of nice to get out there, get back in the touch of things or in the swing of things, and get some touch on the puck. Move your head around, see what's going on. Obviously, the game is a lot faster out there than in practice or something. So I think it was just good experience after not playing for a few months to get back out there. And I think now with it being a few weeks in between games, just randomly with this break, I think it'll be better that I played that one game previously than if I didn't. So I'm looking forward to the next game.
Yeah, absolutely. So like what are you looking forward to about the next game you get into and like just feeling a lot better than your first game?
Yeah, I think I had good poise with the puck in the first game, but I would like to just, like I said, not worry, not go into the game thinking about getting hit and just kind of just going into the game thinking I can play regular, not worry about anything and just trying to be hard on the forecheck. Um, Turn pucks over in the corners, and then I'm an offensive player, so if we can do that, and I can do that, then it'll just be a lot more fun to play offense in the zone instead of kind of looking over my shoulder, not wanting to get hit, even breaking the puck out or something simple like that. So um, and then obviously hopefully after the break I'm not too out of shape.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't be. I'm sure you'll be better than you were that first game. But like, what was like the recovery process during that entire like span of your injury, and just you were still able to practice, so at least you were staying in as much shape as you can at that point.
Yeah, I had an upper body like facial injury, so luckily I was able to still skate while that was going on. So it was the first few weeks when I wasn't skating, it was you really appreciate first of all just getting to play, and when you don't when you're injured, it's just so much of a mental grind. You go to the rink, whatever, you ride the bike, you do the exercise that you can do, you watch practice. It's just such a mental grind because you can't play. um so I was very thankful that while I was injured, I was able to practice for a few weeks during that. It just kind of kept my head in the game, kept me a little mentally better, and just also you can kind of still feel like you're a part of the team. So I was definitely thankful that I was able to skate during that time. um, yeah, and just also feel more ready when I came back.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about like the mental side of things and like how you felt a little bit better than like you would if you weren't like practicing with the team and everything. Like what is your mindset like when you're still injured, you can't play, but you're around the team and you're still able to practice? Like that must bring like all the energy levels up as well because you can actually still be with the team.
Yeah, for sure. It it it's good and bad because you feel like you can play, but you can't. So you want to help your team in games, but at least you are able to be out there and practice, be around the guys, help the team in certain areas, whether it's watching the power play and trying to give tips where you can, or is trying to use some of my experience to maybe even just help some of the younger guys. But then obviously you just want to play even more when you're practicing, So yeah, it's something that luckily I am very thankful that I've had a pretty healthy career. So definitely thank the hockey gods on that one. It was definitely a good experience to have, and it just makes you appreciate playing that much more.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So I want to go into overseas a little bit here since you spent the prior 4 years there, I believe. So
Yeah.
you for last year you were playing Brunis IF in the SHL, where you played in 26 games during like that weird season since like the
hmm
odd season. So like what was that season like, and just being able to experience like all the craziness that must have came from like the pandemic and everything.
Yeah, obviously last year was weird for everybody. I actually I trained obviously in the summer once things start. I wasn't sure, like I said, we just had a baby, so I think Haven was not even a year old last winter. So I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to go. I was thinking that maybe it was almost I was just going to use the opportunity of kind of the pandemic to be able to stay at home longer because people were already doing that. So I just thought that maybe I could go overseas, later, because a lot of times over there they'll sign players later in the season when either a team is trying to make a run for playoffs, a team is not doing well. They either cut guys, release guys, or there's injuries. So I was kind of like my low key plan the whole time, and then ended up working great. I was still skating, throughout November, December here, but it was obviously starting to get long days just training. But it was nice to be home with the family, and I ended up going over to Sweden in pretty much January 1st, right around there. It might have even been right at the end of December. So I went to Brynäs, who needed some help, and I had already been in the SHL, the top league in Sweden, there for the previous 2 years. So it was comfortable for me. I love Sweden as a country. And it was a new team, but I knew a couple guys on the team already, so that was actually really nice and easy transition. Greg Scott, who's Canadian, and then Jaden DeShano, who's Canadian as well. I just knew them prior from playing against them and in whatever pro ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. So like during that like long off season, like you had your family here, so like that must kept you sane, because like especially during that long off season, like things could go crazy and like you lose motivation, all that. Like how were you able to keep motivation, just continue to train throughout like the long off season?
It was hard for sure, because normally I have my routine, and my routine's definitely a little bit different now than maybe when I was 24. I definitely, I'd say worked out. I mean, I guess I could say I worked out harder, but also now I think I just kind of train smarter, and I
Yeah.
know my body. I don't need to lift as many weights as I did when I was younger. I kind of try to more maintain, keep up my speed. But yeah, when you're doing that for a few months, thinking that the season's going to start, and then it doesn't, it was a mental grind and a half, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
I started just, maybe skating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, kind of getting a little routine like that, and maybe, doing a 20-30 minute workout on those days. And then, there was definitely days when you didn't even feel like working out, so maybe you skipped that day. But as long as I was staying active and just staying in shape, and I still enjoy skating. So, and I was lucky to have ice here, and which is literally, like I said, the same rink that I'm playing at now. So um yeah, I was lucky that way, but it was really tough. I was, lucky that I was still able to play. I know a lot of guys and players weren't even able to play, especially over here in the US. The What a nightmare it was over here with the league. So it was tough and a grind, but in the end it all worked out.
Yeah, I feel like you like you just find any way you can to play during that time, especially since some guys didn't even have jobs. Like you just spend that time just thinking that you're playing there, and just thinking that you're there, and just enjoying the ride, because it was one
Exactly.
odd season.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then the following year you play 2 seasons in Orebro. So what was it like from going to from Russia before to going to Sweden and playing in Orebro?
Yeah, so I went pretty much my last year here over in the US. I ended up going to Russia and then going to Sweden for 2 years. I loved like I said already, Sweden is great. It's just a really nice country. It's also smaller, so the travel is easy. You only play pretty much every week. We played Thursday and Saturday, which is so nice. There's never back-to-back games.
Oh, that's
It's
nice.
yeah, it's easy on your body. And then obviously if you play home Friday and away Saturday or vice versa, away and home, the travel's just much easier. You're never having to bust late night on a Friday night, get in late, and then play Saturday morning. You have that day in between, Thursday and Saturday. So it's that's another reason why I think guys end up going over there. It's not only just to continue your career, but it's also just easier on the body.
Yeah.
The fans are just insane. Like last year, obviously there was no fans, which sucked, but the first years in Orebro, one section in the stadium, they don't even have seats. They stand the entire time and chant. So
Wow.
it's pretty wild. Kind of similar like what you see on soccer or something like that over in Europe. And and hockey's so big there. Similarly in Russia, in Sweden, hockey is the biggest sport, so every game is nationally televised. So it was a great experience over there. The hockey's really good. The kids are young, fast. Big ice is different, but I ended up getting used to it. But yeah, that was pretty much my time in Sweden.
Yeah, it must be nice not having 3-3s, 4-5s, stuff like
Oh
that.
man. Oh man. Yeah, that's something that I'm gonna have to get used to this year that I'm not looking forward to.
For sure. But like what was that atmosphere like in Sweden with like the fans, like the soccer fans, like you said, and just everything like they're cheering the entire time. They have like drums going. Like what's the
Yeah.
atmosphere like over there?
It's like actually insane. I never really realized because normally when you're playing you don't really hear the fans or it doesn't enter your game at all. But
Yeah.
the for sure in the beginning over there, I was actually like a little, I don't know if distracted is the right word, but almost like maybe a little too amped up. And um I couldn't, I was definitely not used to it. It was wild. Like even during a whistle, they're like chanting and it's just so loud. But like playing in front of that's like super exciting. Um in Russia, it was a little bit different. I think they're a little bit more North American styled fans in Russia, I would say. But yeah, Sweden is definitely um, a lot of fun to play in. The games are pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what was like the transition that you had to make from like the KHL to the SHL and just going from those to the top tier league in Russia and then top tier league in Sweden.
Uh, yeah, Russia is. It's always like hard to uh, explain styles of hockey, because even sometimes I ask myself like what is the difference, and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint. I'd say though Russia is a little bit more North American style of hockey. Not like it's slow. It's still obviously very fast. I think
Yeah.
KHL is the second best league in the world. But Sweden is Sweden. The players I would say are younger and just faster. Like everybody just skates like a million miles an hour. Russia is a little bit more controlled, more north, and maybe NHL style where the players are smarter. They're a little bit, for a majority, they're a little bit older. And it's a little bit more organized. Whereas maybe Sweden is. It's definitely not run and gun. That's for sure because it's very defensive as well. But um, Sweden is definitely more skating. Russia was, yeah, like that. That's I guess
More of
that's the
just like the
biggest.
controlled.
Yeah, definitely more controlled. And like I think experience has a lot to say with that. The players are older in Russia, so obviously the older you get, maybe you can slow the game down a little bit. Um, and there might be maybe a couple less breakdowns than say in Sweden, but the pace in Sweden is like honestly pretty insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So like throughout like all your time overseas, like what was like the culture shock going from here from North America to Russia and then from Russia to Sweden?
Yeah, going to Russia was pretty crazy. My wife didn't come with me there. And I think I was there for, I don't know, just about 6 months. I went there a little late too because I went to the LA Kings training camp and then ended up going to Russia after that. So their season had already started. Um, but yeah, everybody always asks like how it was. I actually loved Russia, and if you ever have an opportunity to go to Russia or Moscow, I suggest you go because I had nothing but positive experience there. Um, it was definitely more of a culture shock than going to Sweden and Russia. Like pretty much nobody speaks English, especially when once you get out of Moscow. I was in Tolyatti, and once you get away from the big city, there nobody really speaks English. So even if you get in a cab, you have to kind of just show on your phone like where you want to go because
Yeah.
you guys can't even communicate to each other. So, but I had a great time. The obviously, I went there to play hockey, so it wasn't like I had something to do every single day. It wasn't definitely the life in Russia is different for sure. Uh, but yeah, I had a good time, and I was really glad I went. The transition in Sweden was definitely a lot easier. Everybody speaks English, like everybody in perfect English. And it's just a little bit smaller country. It's easier to get in, get out of. So yeah, I have nothing but really good to say about my European experience. I was definitely uh more ready to get back to North America probably. I could have definitely stayed over there, but now with the family, it's just easier to play
Yeah.
back in the US and have Chipotle for lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. Chipotle is definitely up there on the pregame and postgame meals for sure.
Yeah, you definitely can miss that when you're over there. That
Yeah.
was my biggest complaint about being over there is the food probably.
Absolutely. And so I want to get into 2016, 2017 here. And this is like where you moved around the most throughout your career so far. You played in the NHL with the Florida Panthers. You went to the Springfield Thunderbirds and then the Albany Devils in the AHL. So first, I think we have to start off with how was that first NHL game with the Florida Panthers?
Yeah, that was it was amazing. It was cool because I had had a good previous couple of years where it was possible that maybe uh could have been called up. Well, the year previously, I was with Florida as well, and I ended up getting I had a high ankle sprains. But obviously, I would have loved to have been called up, but it was kind of cool that I didn't because the next year I ended up making it out of camp. So I got to be there the entire time through camp, through everything. And then playing that first home opening game, which was just really cool. I wasn't expecting him to play in the home opener, and it was awesome. It was really cool. I'll have that puck and stuff for the rest of my life, and it was just really special. Yeah, and I love the Florida Panthers organization for giving me that opportunity, and I loved being down there. I had a great time.
Yeah, so like what's that rush when you make it out of camp? Like you go all throughout training camp, do well, and then you make the opening night roster right at game one. Like what's the rush there and just like the energy you feel during those games?
Yeah, it was wild. I think might have been a couple days before I was just like working on my stick down in the stick room, and Tom Rowe, who's I don't know whether he was the head GM or the assistant GM, but he was actually my coach the previous year in Portland. He was just a great guy, and I think really helped me and believed in me in Florida. And I think the 2 days before the first game, he just kind of came in there because they don't come out and just say, hey, like, it's more, I don't know, it's always just, it's just pro sports. Not much is ever said, right? It's just
Yeah.
kind of, you're still there, you're there. You didn't get called in, you didn't get cut today, then you're still on the team. And I think he just kind of came in and said, hey, maybe you should tell your parents to fly out here for the first game. And it was just like, kind of like, what? And he just kind of like had a smirk on his face, I think, and then just kind of walked out. So that was pretty surreal and just kind of cool to remember. So yeah, it was really cool to get notified previously and then have my family be there for the game. It was pretty cool. So yeah, that was, I'll definitely always remember that. I'll never forget that. So that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, just a subtle clue that you're making the opening night roster, and you gotta have your family come down to see that first game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you played 14 games throughout that season with the Florida Panthers, notching 2 goals and 1 assist. Like, do you remember getting that first goal and like everything that went on around it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, we played Colorado, and I think Varlamov was the goalie, yeah. But I pretty much played with McKegg and my buddy McKegg and Mackenzie pretty much every game that I was there. So I thought we actually had some pretty good chemistry. Me and McKegg played together the previous year also in Portland. But yeah, I'll always remember that first goal, and it's obviously nice to have it on video so you can kind of refresh your memory. But I think there was just like a breakdown in our D zone from them. They made, I think they had a turnover in their offensive zone, and we went down kind of on like a 2-on-1 break, and he made a really nice sauce pass to me back door, and I just kind of chipped it in. And so that was pretty huge. And I think that was in the second period. And then I ended up scoring again in the third, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that was
2-game goal or 2-goal game.
yeah, I know, it wasn't too bad. So I'll definitely take that, and that's something I'll never forget for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So like throughout your time in the NHL, like what were some of the things that you learned throughout that season coming up from the AHL and just being in the lineup for 14 games in the NHL?
Yeah, I think looking back, I kind of had the idea that I would do pretty much anything. I think I had two fights, if you want to call them. They weren't anything special, but I didn't care. I've never been a fighter, but I didn't care. I was in the NHL. I would do anything to stay. But you also have to have, your identity. You can't go out there and be somebody who you're not. Some like just simple things in practice where, when I maybe in the beginning of training camp or in the beginning, I would maybe, try to almost like skate too hard, work too hard. It's just funny once you're up there, like guys don't overwork. They're obviously they're very professional, like, and they get their work done. So that was something that I definitely learned. That you don't need to overwork. They're just, it starts with intelligence first, and
Yeah.
just doing things the right way. So if you do things the right way and you're in the right position, you don't have to overwork, especially even in obviously in games, but even in practice. It's something that I learned pretty quickly. So that's something that I'll always take away, and definitely something for other guys to learn when they first go up there.
Yeah, absolutely. So like throughout that season, you also go down to the AHL to the Thunderbirds and then the Albany Devils. Like what's your mindset like when you're getting moved down constantly and just
Yeah,
going from one team to another team as well in the AHL?
yeah. I mean, I've always had a pretty positive attitude. I got sent down originally, and obviously you're hoping like you can go down there and light it up, and then just get called back up. And it ended up not happening down in Springfield, just for whatever reason, just didn't click. And then I think towards the end of the year before the deadline, I think an opportunity came up with the Devils. So I ended up just it just kind of worked out. Like got traded to the Devils. just see if maybe something could click there. And I went to Albany, and they had a great team already. And it wasn't just for whatever reason, it didn't like for personally didn't have the most amazing year, like, point wise or whatever. So there was nothing negative or anything like that. It was just it was what it was, and I ended up not getting back up that year, and I went to camp the next year, or just to finish that year off. It was definitely different for me because I don't think, well, I've never been traded, and then normally I'm only on one team a year, so it is kind of nice to be steady. But obviously, in pro sports, sometimes you need to move around a little bit. But it wasn't bad, wasn't bad at all, and obviously, I'm still just thankful for my opportunity in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. So then over the next 3 years before that, you spent 2 seasons with the Chicago Wolves, and then you spent a season in Portland with the Portland Pirates. Like, what were those 3 years like, and like in developing, especially like when you were in Chicago and you guys were producing a lot of points there?
Yeah, I was probably not quite ready to play pro when I was 21, but I'm very thankful that Philadelphia signed me to a 3-year entry level contract before Chicago. So I ended up not re-signing with Philadelphia after that third year, and I went to Chicago, and I believe I signed for 2 years, unless I signed maybe just one, and then I ended up signing back in that summer. I can't even remember. It might have just been a 1 year and a 1 year. But yeah, I loved my time in Chicago. I learned a lot. Uh, Wendell Young was the GM there, and he was great to just onboard me into a really good team. And yeah, just something just clicked being there, and I ended up having my couple of my best years in the A, and doing really well, scoring a lot of goals. And me and my buddy Pat Canoni found something in that second year, just clicked. And yeah, I owe a lot to them, just because that kind of put me back on the map in the NHL, because I was only on an AHL contracts, and it's kind of difficult once you go from an NHL deal to an AHL deal to get back to an NHL deal.
Yeah.
But you never know what can happen. That's why just that's just something that I learned. You just stick with it. You don't know what can happen. Even if you play in the ECHL, doesn't mean you can't play in the NHL someday.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, what is that grind going from an NHL contract to an AHL contract, then finding your way back to an NHL contract? Like, that must have been a grind, and like it took a lot out of you. But like, what was that whole process like, and just being able to just develop and learn from your experiences?
Yeah, I guess it definitely is a grind, but it happens, over a whole summer or something, where you end up not signing another NHL deal. But you also can kind of see the writing on the wall. I didn't have the most amazing years in the Adirondack. So it was kind of to be expected. Also, you have to be, you have to be a little real with yourself, and but then also just having that faith in yourself, knowing that you are a good player, you know what you can bring. So I always was confident that I could be really good playing in whatever level pro it was. And I thought that if I got a good opportunity in the A, that I could prove myself, and it ended up working out. So I think I just always had a pretty good attitude, and just knew that, it just takes a couple good years, or one good year to get back on the radar. So I think that was just took it 1 year at a time, and I try not to put too much pressure or emphasis on where I was. But of course, at times it can be very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to bring you back to like where you first started in pro with Adirondack now. So after that year in Everett for the Silver Tips, you then signed with Adirondack in the AHL with the Phantoms, where you played in 5 games, getting a goal. So like, what was the process like to go from the WHL to the AHL?
Yeah, that was cool. That was for sure probably the biggest like eye opener step I've ever had, for sure. Leaving juniors, I was 20, so I was the oldest in juniors, and then going all of a sudden signing a contract in Philadelphia, and whatever March, and then our season ended kind of abruptly, and then I came all the way out here and played 5 games that year, and it was pretty eye opening. I mean, I've never been a big guy, but obviously the guys were big and strong, but it was more so I'd say the skating, which was the biggest part. The game was just so fast compared to, a junior game. That was for sure the biggest like step I ever took, but it was good to get to play those games and then get to try to train for that next summer to try to get that much better. But yeah, that's why when I said I probably wasn't ready at 21, but so I was, probably a little bit more of a late bloomer. I think I ended up working on my speed, my skating, and my leg strength a lot after that. Playing pro is a lot different than playing juniors.
Yeah, absolutely. So you get one goal during those 5 games, your first pro goal. Like what was that feeling like? Feeling like getting that monkey off the back and getting your first pro goal?
Yeah, that was like you said, it was just more like monkey off your back and just like, okay, like, hey, at least I scored a goal. And Pat Maroon gave it to me. Um he was on that team there. He was the guy who assisted. He came from behind the net and gave it to me in front. Patty's a great guy. Um so yeah,
Absolute legend.
yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting to see what he's done for himself. So yeah, that was really cool to at least pot one in those 5 games, and then get to go home after that and at least say I scored a pro goal.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then the following year, you cracked the Adirondack Phantoms lineup and you played 20 games while also playing 48 games in the ECHL with the Greenville Road Warriors. Like, what was that first year of first official full season of pro hockey like, and like finding out the realities of pro hockey where you could go from the AHL to the coast and you could bounce back and forth.
Yeah, you can, like you said, you can bounce back and forth really quickly. Um, I think it was really good for me to go to Greenville. I think it was the best thing that happened to me. It just, it, say you're not playing a lot in the AHL and you're playing a fourth line role or something like that. It's just, I think, especially for a young kid, I was 21. It was just so good for me to go down to the ECHL. There being only 10 forwards on the team, you get to play probably 18 minutes a night, like no problem. With there pretty much just being 3 forward lines. So you get to play a ton. You obviously the game isn't quite as fast as the AHL, but it's still pretty fast.
Yeah.
So you get to play against, older guys, and just kind of learn the pro style hockey. And I think that was huge for me. I also loved Greenville, the city in South Carolina. Had a great time there, and that was a really good positive experience for me. I definitely think that helped me get better.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like throughout like that first year of pro hockey when you're dealing with all the like bouncing around, like what do you learn and what do you learn from those experiences and just like playing at the pro level and just helping yourself develop for the next few years after that?
Yeah, I guess. Well, first you learn really quickly that a lot of stuff is out of your control. Of
Yeah.
course you get sent down normally for how you're playing, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's, whether they see you as a person, as a player who wants to play in the top 2 lines, or maybe they don't want to put you on the bottom 2 lines, so they'd say, hey, we'd rather have them play more down there. So so that's something you learn. You try not to read into things too much and just kind of control what you can control, because in pro hockey you can bounce around a lot, and if you're always worried about what happened and where, so that's something that I tried to just take everything with a grain of salt, and wherever I was, I tried to perform at my best. So yeah, that's, going coming up and down in the first year probably helped me for the rest of my career, just not worrying about stuff too much.
Yeah, and I feel like you should be like worrying about like where you are currently at and like don't worry about like anything else besides like the level you're currently at and like producing and developing down there and playing your best down wherever you are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably the hardest thing to do. But if you can do that, it just kind of makes your life easier.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into your junior career a little bit here before we wrap things up here. So you started your junior career in 2005, where you played in the Western Hockey League for the Everett Silvertips for all 5 years of your junior hockey career. What was the process like to find a team in Everett in the WHL?
Yeah. So being from California, I didn't really know much about the WHL growing up, but our minor league, our minor hockey coach Jack Bocus, who's passed away now, but he was pretty instrumental in a lot of us California guys going to play in the WHLs. I played on the California Wave growing up, and he used to take us to a bunch of tournaments in Canada, whether it was Kamloops, Prince George. We went to, I think, Vancouver area a couple times. Um, so I never thought I was going to play in the WHL, but I got on a couple teams' radars. I think I was actually protected by Kamloops first, and then I think I said I was going to go to college. They dropped me, and then next year, Everett saw me in a U.S. tournament. I ended up going to Everett's camp. My dad said, "Well, just you can just go to camp." I was only 16 at the time. He's a, which he was right. It's a good experience to just go to the camp,
Yeah.
and you don't have to play, but just get some experience. Which was great. And they had I think they were only the third or fourth year in the league. They had like a brand new 8,500 seat arena. It was just massive and gorgeous. And yeah, I went to camp there. I think it was, I don't know, 10 days to 2 weeks, and I ended up making the team. And my dad pretty much left it up to me. He just said, well, you can stay and play if you want, or we can just come back home and wait another year. But they wanted me, and it was pretty surreal looking back. It's moving there at 16 is pretty wild. And yeah, so that was the dilemma. Once you sign in the WHL, you can't play college anymore. So I don't know. At 16 years old, you're not really thinking about college much. So
Yeah.
I just decided to go for it, and yeah, I just absolutely loved my 5 years in Everett. I have nothing but good memories, and still have lifelong friendships from my time there.
Yeah. So like what is it like going to like your first major junior camp in the WHL in Everett, and then performing well over there, signing with or getting on the team, and then moving all the way to Everett and just being able to live in Everett while you're only 16 years old and you got to be on your own for a little bit.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, mostly because I wasn't expecting to do it. I wasn't even sure if my parents were gonna let me, but they obviously saw the opportunity, and it was probably hardest on my mom. She didn't expect me to leave, but yeah, going to camp, and obviously the hockey was so good. Like being 16 and then playing against 20-year-olds, the hockey was just so good.
Yeah.
I had a lot to learn, a lot to learn. I had a lot of. I've always had good skills. I've always had good hands and a shot, but the speed was something that I really had to learn. That was obviously a huge jump. Going from just minor hockey to the WHL was just like such a eye-opening experience. And then obviously getting to play in front of thousands of fans was just so cool at that young of an age. But yeah, moving away, it ended up just being a lot of fun. You get to know your teammates a lot better. I lived with a billet family, the Scannells, and they were just great in Everett. Um, and yeah, just everything about Everett was a positive experience. I love the Seattle area, and I'm so happy they have an NHL team there. Because the fans there are awesome, so they deserve it. And yeah, it was a pretty cool experience to go there so early, and obviously get to play 5 years there. It's not really common to get to play
Yeah.
5 years at one junior team.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like you jump right into that first year in the WHL after you make it out of camp. So like what were some of the things you had to learn throughout that season, especially like you said, like you're playing 20-year-olds, and like it's a big gap from being 16 to 20? Like, what were some of the biggest things that you had to learn throughout that first year?
I mean, so much. Like, when you play minor hockey, you're out there just trying to score goals. You're not so much. Of course, you try to play defense, but I don't think the X's and O's really are much of a part of it. So
Yeah.
jumping into the WHL, and Kevin Constantine was my coach, who is probably one of the biggest X's and O guys there are as a coach. So I had to learn so much off the ice, really. I obviously had to learn a lot on the ice as well, but off the ice, just positionally, whether it's forecheck, neutral zone, defensive. So I pretty much had to learn every part of the game, really. Obviously that's common for kids going into that level, but
Yeah.
especially with Kevin as our coach, I think I did more video with him as a 16-year-old than I think I have the rest of my entire career, per day, on a per day basis, probably, which looking back on it now was pretty great to get to experience and kind of prepare you for pro hockey. It's definitely a fast track to get you ready for pro hockey.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you go in as a 16-year-old and you have to learn a whole new system, a whole new game, and that must have been hard. But like, you eventually learn it, and then you're able to apply it, and hopefully with that, when you're applying it, you're successful while you're at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then you played in 62 games, getting 6 goals, 4 assists in those 62 games. Like, what was it like scoring that first WHL goal?
Oh, it was obviously a thrill. It's hard to even remember back that far, but
It's been a while.
I mean, it has been a while, but no, I mean, I remember that full first year. It was tough, man. Playing at 16. Yeah, I'm very thankful I did, because even even if you practiced, I honestly don't, I'm trying to remember the first goal. I don't even remember, but just playing at 16, even if you practice all year playing at 16, you would become such a better player than if you
Yeah.
just in my opinion. Of course, it's better to play, but just the level between minor hockey to the WHL is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. So you played 62 games coming in as a 16-year-old. Like, how taxing does that get on your body, and like, what do you do to help yourself like feel good and recover after those games, especially
Yeah,
when you're playing that much?
I know that's something that a kid wouldn't be really used to, and playing
Yeah.
such a physical style game, close to professional as you can get. Um, and I think we played 72, so I think I was, I didn't even play in 10 games, but I do remember how intense that schedule is, and a lot of times it's a 3-and-3. You're traveling to different cities. It's something that you had to get used to quick, and you had to understand that, like, that's what the schedule is going to be, and you're young, and you're not very mature, but you also have to understand and start to figure out your body and figure out what you can do to prepare for those games. And obviously, getting your sleep. Every 16-year-old doesn't probably get enough sleep. It's
Yeah.
something that I had to try to do, just like the rest of my teammates. So yeah, it's something that like I said, it's a fast track to pro hockey. You really have to learn quickly and get used to it.
Yeah, so you go through 62 games that first year. You have to learn a lot. You have to develop. What was that second year like, and gaining that experience and learning the WHL game a little bit? Like, how big was that first year for you to be instrumental in going into your second year and being successful?
Yeah, I think looking back, it was almost like I needed like 2 years to get ready, because I don't think my ice time changed much between the first and second year. But then I think I ended up taking a pretty good jump after my second year. I think after my second year, going to my third year was really when I started to feel like I was turning into a good player. So like that's honestly, how long it kind of took me personally. So that's why I think that I was a bit more of a late bloomer. I think I think for me, if I can play the game fast, then I'll be good. And I think from a young age, that's what just took me a little bit longer to get this up to speed, to play quicker. And I think it honestly took me a couple years to do that. And then once I did get used to it, then it was good, and I learned a lot, and I was able to play at a higher level. Once I could, I think for me especially, it was like almost like the stamina of
Yeah.
taking a 45-second shift at that high of a speed was something that I definitely wasn't used to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like what did you do to get used to that 45-second shift at that intensity? Like, did you just do like a lot of like sprints like during the summer? Like what went into training for that?
Yeah, I definitely worked really hard off the ice. I swear I went into the WHL like 165 pounds, I think. And I think I was like 180. I think I want to say I gained like 10 to 15 pounds in the first like year and a half. So like by year 2 or 3, I think I was like 180. So I worked hard. I did. But I even remember like my first training camp, we did like a 2-on-2 or 2-on-1 continuous drill where you go down and play offense, and then once you play offense, you have to play defense, or vice versa,
Yeah.
defense to offense. And I remember that I couldn't even like almost stand up to get out of the zone, and guys were just like skating around me because I just had like no leg stamina. So that was something that I just had to build up over time. I think it was just honestly repetition, doing those practices and getting used to it. So that was something I'll always remember, that specific drill that I didn't even know what to do because I couldn't even hardly stand up. So um, that's something that I think it just literally was just repetition. Took a couple of years, and then
Yeah.
after that, you just kind of get that pace. It's like once you play pro hockey, you just kind of always have that pace back. Even if you haven't skated in a while, you just kind of always have built that stamina up in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So then you go into year 3 through year 3, year 4, and year 5 of your WHL career, and obviously you're experienced now, and you get your finally like where you want to be after that second year, and just like of getting better and getting better each and every year. So like, what are those last 3 years of WHL hockey like, and just being able to play 70 plus games a season and like really like notice that what you've been doing in the off season training and everything is paying off?
Yeah, that was something that was pretty big. And while I was there, because I think I had the most games played when I finished. I think somebody took it, but not saying anything about that. But it was just more the fact that I learned how to play 72 games. I and obviously, luckily, you know, the injuries weren't anything crazy, and I was able to play. So I think for a few years there, I played almost every game, for I don't know, 2 or 3 years. Um, so yeah, that was something that was just huge, and I also prided myself on being able to play that many games. And yeah, I tried to carry that over into my pro career as well. Learning how to practice the right way, do whatever you need to do in the gym, get used to playing that many games, and you end up getting used to it after a while. But yeah, I think I built on top of it each year, learned even more each year, learned what to do off the ice, gain that strength, and then yeah, going into my fourth year, did well. And then obviously my fifth year, you're expected to do well. There's only 3 20-year-olds on each team. And yeah, I ended up having a really good year my third year, or excuse me, my fifth year. Um, and yeah, just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So throughout like your 5 years in Everett, you guys were playoff contending teams each year. It's like, what was playoff hockey like in Everett, and the intensity that goes up in the WHL playoffs?
Huge, yeah, crazy. We had yeah, we had a couple disappointing losses in Everett, because I don't remember whether it might have been my third year. We were, for the whole year, we were ranked like top 10, and at some points we were the top top ranked team in the entire CHL. So the OHL and the QMJHL. We were like, our team was incredible. We had Peter Mueller, Zach Hamill, Leland Irving, and net. And I was just more of a role player on that team because we had these guys were just so good. So yeah, the playoff hockey was incredible, especially playing at home in front of our fans. They're in Everett. They're just awesome. This place just goes nuts. So yeah, that was definitely my first taste of real playoff hockey, and it was just a blast. It was a blast. Playoff hockey is just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the intensity goes up a whole new level in playoffs, and it's just, I feel like it's more fun to play in playoffs than the regular season because it's as much toll as it takes on the body. Like it's a lot more fun, and like you're into it every single game.
Oh yeah, you could play 1 7-game series, and you could for sure be more sore than playing half a season, 100%. Guarantee that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take the last few minutes here, and I have a few more questions that I want to ask. So, do you have any tips for hockey players looking to get to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, for any like younger kid, I guess I would just say as long as you're kind of having fun with it, then I think you're going to try to, you know, practice more on your own, and the more you practice on your own, I think the better you'll get. And that's just kind of individually. And in the summer, finding maybe you don't even need to find a trainer, but finding what you need to get good at. I mean, obviously something simple, just like getting like a plyometric routine, which pretty much everybody could get better at. Building up their speed, just something like that, and then also, like we talked about before, just controlling what you can control. There's so many leagues nowadays where you don't even need to be in the top league. You can be in another league, whether it be like tier A or tier 1, tier 2, and you can have a good season in one of those other leagues and get noticed that way. So that's something that I would definitely tell younger kids, that you don't always have to play in the best league to develop and get better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great tip, and like there, you just gotta focus on the level you're playing and focus on your development there, and not worry about where you're gonna be up next year. Just follow what you can, just do what you can control, and like it'll become a lot more easier that way.
100%.
So my next question for you is, you're listening to some music. Like, what's your favorite pump up song? You're trying to get a lift in, pregame warm ups. Like, what are you listening to?
I usually go back and forth between like hip hop and rap and like EDM, techno. I not like hardcore techno, but just like more, I guess, mainstream popular EDM type music, and then I'll switch back and forth to rap too. I like that too.
Yeah, love it. And then my next question is, how are the Swedish meatballs in Sweden? Gotta ask that.
I've been asked that many times. To be honest, I didn't even have that many Swedish meatballs. I didn't really understand. I thought they were gonna be everywhere. They were like harder to find than you would think. So that was kind of
Dang.
disappointing.
Yeah, that's disappointing. Swedish meatballs are in the name, Swedish, and
I know
can't even
you would,
find them.
right? I know. Bizarre.
Yeah, for real. And I have two viewer questions that the viewers wanted to submit. So your teammate Ivan Chukrov asked, how many different curves have you used in your career?
Quite a few. I'm a stick guy, and I like to tinker. And I actually have a new curve on the way coming from Warrior right now. So hopefully, I don't think it's gonna be here by Christmas, but maybe before New Year I might get a little present. So I'm excited to try it. I think it's old
Another new curve.
Spurgeon's old pattern. So I'm excited to try it.
Nice. That's awesome. You can't complain about whatever stick works, I guess. Like, it doesn't matter the curve, like as long as it works, it works.
Exactly.
And then my final question is, what's one thing you missed about Chicago?
Man, I miss a lot about Chicago. I love the area we lived in. Actually, one thing I do miss about Chicago is their grocery store. Shoot, I don't even remember the name of it, but man, it was so good. Uh, Martinelli's I don't remember the name of the store, but even something simple like that. But I could easily live in Chicago. Me and my wife loved it there too. We just love that. We weren't even in the city; we're in the suburbs, but it's just such a great area. I like the weather there. You get all 4 seasons. Like here, you get a lot of snow, which we kind of like, and
Yeah.
it's really clean. It's nice. It's just really good area. Wasn't any traffic where we were. It was easy to come and go from the games, and it was every it was obviously a bigger type of city where I'm used to growing up and from California had all the restaurants you'd need. We loved living there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that'll wrap up this part of the show. So Shane, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time. I want to wish you the best of luck this season, and I look forward to following your career the rest of the way.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.